All right, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are today. Let's take a look at section 5.4, which is using medians and altitudes. Now again, at the very end, do not forget to do this survey, which is located there on your screen if you're one of my students. Today's joke of the day: if there are 10 cats in a boat and one jumps out, how many are left? The answer coming very soon. Now let's go ahead and take a look at our very first definition here. So make sure that you write these in your notes. Now a median of a triangle is a segment from a vertex to the midpoint of the opposite side. So that means a median, if we've got a triangle, we're going to start over on one vertex, we're going to go to the other side, and it's going to be the midpoint. Now if that's the midpoint, then that means it's going to take the other side and it's going to chop it in half. Now there's more than one median in a triangle because you might have three sides or three angles, which means you could have three medians. So we're going to have one there, and then we're going to have one right down there. All right, that's not really well drawn, but you kind of get the idea of that. So that spot where they come together, that has a very, very special name that we'll talk about in a moment. But don't forget, the other sides, they get chopped in half as well. So that would be right there, and this, we get three hash marks on this side. So that spot, though, where they meet, that's getting a very, very special name. That point of concurrency, which means where the lines intersect of the three medians, that is called the centroid. And the centroid is located inside the triangle. So that spot right there in the middle of the triangle where all three lines meet is called the centroid. Now let's go ahead and take a look at several other pieces. This is like, oh my gosh, so many formulas. So why don't you hit pause, write them down, and then we'll kind of think about it here for a moment. Now that you're done thinking about it, let's take a look at it. I mean, we've got a lot of formulas, but if we kind of pay attention a little bit, it's going to be common sense here. You've got this thing called a median. This median, so I'm going to highlight just one of the medians, this median right here, and we're going to use the AE median. That median gets broken up into two pieces. You've got this piece right here, so I'm going to kind of go over that. Wow, that's going to be the long part of the median. Holy moly, that's very, very challenging to look at and see. Whew. Then let's take a look at this piece right here from P to E. Ooh, that'd be a short piece. Wow, that doesn't seem so bad. You got the median, you got a long piece, and you got a short piece of the median. Not too bad. But the formulas tend to make things a little bit more complicated. Now let's kind of go over here, and I want you to write this piece down because this is really what's going to help you guys kind of keep some things straight as far as which thing to use. Now with that idea of the median being broken into two pieces, if you have the whole median, the formulas that we're going to use are going to be these, one of these two right here. If you have the whole median, you're going to use one of those. If you don't have the whole median, otherwise, you're going to use this. If you don't have the median, you're going to use one of these other formulas. If you have one of the parts. All right, and that's it in a nutshell. So depending on which piece of information you're given or which one you're told, that'll differentiate which formulas you guys use for this. So seems pretty simple enough. Whole median, we use one in the first two columns, and the pieces of the median, if I'm given either the long piece of the median or the short piece, then I'll use one of those formulas all the way in the right hand column. Now I like to call this a 2/3, 1/3, 1/2 part, and we're going to kind of play around with this here in a little bit. The long piece, this is how I want you guys to remember it, that's going to be 2/3 of the entire median. The short piece is going to be 1/3 of the entire median. So those are those first two columns of formulas. If you're given the entire median, when you use those first two, that's going to be one of those first couple of formulas. But if you have the short piece or the long piece, the short piece is going to be half as long as the entire median. So those are the three, that's another way to kind of remember it. Now, let's go ahead and get after our first example using these. And I think once you see an example or two, things will start to fall into place. Now, some of you are just going to go ahead and pause this and write down all the information. So after you do that, I want you to come back and I want you to actually listen to the explanation. All right, so here we go. In triangle RST, Q is a centroid, and SQ equals 8. Find QW and SW. Now the piece that we are given, the SQ, and I want you to make sure that you write this part down because SQ is the long piece of the median. So the short piece is half as long as the long piece. So that means QW, if that part is 8, then this piece over here, this QW part, if this part's 8, the shorter piece is half as long as that. And half of 8, well, that's just 4. That's really easy to figure out. So SW is going to be the entire piece right there, but the QW part is 4, so the SW piece, well, that's easy to see. 8 plus 4 gives you 12, so SW is 12. That wasn't so bad, was it? But make sure that your algebra is very, very tight. Make sure you organize your work the way it's shown on the screen, because that's going to help you not only this year in geometry, but also next year when you move on to another algebra course. All right, so let's take a look at our next little piece together. Not too bad, huh? We'll be told in a triangle, P is a centroid. All right, so that tells us certain information. Then we got to find each measure. Now, for example A, because we've got 3 of them, A, B, and C, we're going to do example A first. SC, we're given that's 21. Find PS and PC. So SC, this whole piece right here, that's the whole median. And all of that's 21. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use those 2/3, 1/3 formula and find the 2 parts of the median. So I'll just take my time and substitute everything in the right spot. Now, what I've got to make sure that I substitute correctly is what goes where. So the entire median is going to go right here for SC. The entire median always goes in that spot. And then the short piece and the long piece, they're the ones that go along the left-hand side of our equation. Now, this is just a simple substitution and arithmetic problem. When you're done, you'll get PS is 7 and PC is 14. Now, there are a lot of ways that you can check your work. Now, don't forget to do this, because this is where a lot of students, if you make a mistake, you can very, very easily check this. All right, do both pieces of the median add up to the entire median? Well, we were told the whole thing's 21. Yeah, that's true. Now, the other thing I want you to do is when you take a look at these two, PS or SP, however you want to name it, that part's 7. And the other piece, PC, that part's 14. So I want to look at the long piece, 14, and say, okay, well, is that twice as long as the short piece? Or you could think about it, is 7 half of 14? Either way, yeah, that's true. All right, so make sure that you check it. Don't be lazy and just say, okay, I got numbers, I'm done. Get after that and do that extra step, because that step's going to be the difference between getting it right or being frustrated because, oops, I made a careless mistake. All right, and I don't want you guys making careless mistakes, so I want your math to be good because you're rock stars, so be a good rock star and get your math right, yo. No problem. Let's take a look at examples B and C now. Again, for B, same thing. We know that P is going to be our centroid, so same criteria as before. Now, this time we've got to find TC and BC. All right, now, AT is your median, so that means what that's going to do, right? That's going to chop this side and this side in half. All right, no big deal. They tell us BT is 10, no biggie. So that means the other part has to be 10. So see our logic right there? I mean, that's all you have to do is use logic. I mean, so much of geometry, like life, is about logic. All right, make some good decisions in life and you'll be okay. Now, if BT's 10, then that means the TC part, well, that part's also 10. And BC, well, the whole thing, well, that's really easy to calculate. That's just those two numbers added up, you get 20. All right, not bad. You got this stuff. Now, here we're going to go back inside the triangle. We're told PT is 8. All right, so I'm going to write that down right here. PT is 8. Find PA and TA. Now, PT, that is, and this is what I want you to do before you even look at the formula stuff. I want you to write that information in the picture and identify, is PT, is that the short part of the median, the long part of the median, or is that the whole thing? You always want to get after it thinking about it from that perspective. Now, PT is the short part, which means from P to A or A to P, however you want to notate that. Well, that's just going to be double 8, and that part is going to be 16. So I already know, like mathematically, I can see what's going on. This part is 16, and the whole thing from A all the way to T, all of that would just be 16 plus 8, which is 24. So I can see that very easily with the numbers written like that. Now, we got to formalize it, though, which is where I want you guys to make sure that you're good and you write out your equations and show your work just like that on the left-hand side. All right, so go ahead and pause if you need to write down that information and make sure that your work is nice, it's neat, and it's organized. All right, because I want you guys to be solid math students, not just this year, but it's going to help you later on when you're in more complex math classes down the road. All right, so that was it for this section. Pretty straightforward. Now, joke of the day, let's get back to that. But before we do that, don't forget, make sure that you do your survey. Now, if there are 10 cats in a boat and one jumps out, how many are left? None. Silly, they are all copycats. That's right. So, don't be a copycat. Stay in the boat if that's a better choice for you. All right, that's it for today's lesson. Hope to see you guys again soon. Peace out.